Welcome to Comic Chop News. I'm Dan, and the time has finally come for It Chapter 2. Gonna start out by saying this movie is long. It is really long. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes. It really felt a little bit longer at times. Take that as good or bad. At no time did I ever think that the time was dragging. It's just occasionally I would check my watch, and it was just like, oh, shit, this is still going. So I'm going to start out with the good and get to things I didn't like. The good, I can't start without saying that Bill Hader and James Ransone playing Eddie and Richie Tozier, the adult versions, for me, they carried and stole the movie. They were the standouts. I really enjoyed what they brought, and Bill Hader for me was a revelation because I've never seen him outside of comedy. I've heard about that show Barry he's in, being very good. The performance by him was exceptional. They made some choices with the character of Richie in this that I thought worked incredibly well. I'm not going to spoil it. This is a non-spoiler review. I didn't say that at the top of the show. But I wanted to get that out there. Some other things that I liked, they dialed up the amount of blood used. There's a couple of scenes where they just dropped an incredible amount of blood. The child versions of themselves come back in flashbacks, filling in some blanks. Again, the kids are phenomenal. James Ransone literally looks how Eddie would grow up with Jack Dylan Grazer. They have like an overlay scene, and I'll be damned if they aren't like almost exactly the same. Jessica Chastain puts on a solid performance. Some other performances by the adults, I know they're good actors, but I don't think they were given enough, or the things they were given just didn't work enough for me. Skarsgård, I felt like his performance of Pennywise was less sinister in this. There were a couple of scenes that I really enjoyed, but it started kind of getting in that Tim Curry kind of goofing around type of thing. There is a choice with Henry Bowers, him escaping. Some of it I liked. They got rid of from the original, the dog head. I thought that was a smart idea. I really like that. Another thing that I liked and hated at the same time. So those who read the book, what brings Pennywise back in the 80s in the book was basically this beating of gay lovers, Adrian Mellon, who is beaten and then tossed off a bridge. And it's one of those weird things that reading it in the page and then seeing it unfold on the screen is so much more jarring, watching it happen. And you go into the scene where Adrian's lover sees Pennywise on the shore killing Adrian. It was very visceral. The whole scene was just brutal and visceral the whole way in the beginning. We have, IIsaiah Mustafa playing an older Mike Hanlon, who's maybe a little bit more crazed than as portrayed in the books and in the original 1990 series. I thought it was an okay performance. I'm going to kind of get into some of the stuff I did not like. And it's really hard for me to dance around the spoilers in this. I'll just say this very vaguely. The end battle with Pennywise is just as unsatisfying as the original series, except their choice of how to portray Pennywise in his final form that is perceivable to the children or to the adults versus what was in the series and in the book. I felt kind of hope they were going to go closer to what was in the book. In the book, Pennywise had, basically children that were hatching, and Ben is crushing them with his boots. This had a different kind of form and a twist that, again, it just didn't work for me. It might work for others. I felt it just as unsatisfying. Another thing that I kind of had an issue with was Jay Ryan playing the adult Ben and Jessica Chastain's Bev. I didn't feel had good chemistry, and I kind of felt he was a little bit wooden in his acting. Again, it could be what the dialogue given to him in the script, but I just wasn't feeling the connection there. Also, I did not love... what James McAvoy... I kind of felt like he took a back seat to some of the other actors. I mean, he's a great actor. And in this, I didn't quite get a performance I was expecting out of him. But he was involved in one of my standout scenes, which some of you saw in that second trailer with the funhouse. I thought that was a very intense scene with the child. There were some other things in there. There is a weird choice they made at the end, which I don't know if I like it or hate it, that involves a letter from Stanley. It's kind of like a suicide letter, and I don't know if it helps or hurts. It's a very divisive device they added. Also, Bill's wife, who was kind of a central part of the second part of the book and in the TV movie, is just there at the beginning and doesn't go to Derry following him. We also don't get Tom, Bev's husband. We do see him and her go at it at their house. Again, that was a rather brutal, visceral scene. Again, but in the book, it is worse even. Again, there's things that they changed. Bev visiting her old house was fantastic. The CGI got used a lot more in this, and sometimes it just doesn't come off as smooth, especially there's some Pennywise facial scenes that they use. Another change that they made when Henry escapes, it was Belch in the books that was driving him around in I think it's Trans Am or Camaro, I can't remember. In this, it's Patrick Hostetter, which again is a weird choice, especially if you've read the books. Henry and Patrick weren't exactly what you'd call best buddies. You read the book. I don't even want to go any further into it than that. Again, Eddie ended up being fascinating. Even Ben, the stuff, you didn't really get that much into his... They didn't even do the story like they did about how he got unfat, how he lost the weight and why he lost the weight, what triggered it. The movie starts with Bev in the deadlights and kind of flashing back to them all making the promise. I was satisfied and not satisfied at the same time with the movie, if that makes sense. Stephen King is in the movie. There is a meta joke in it that is kind of like a Stephen King trope of, I really like your books, but I hate the ending. And they keep hammering Bill with it, and then Stephen King hammers Bill with it. I found that to be a very good meta joke in the movie. They skipped around a lot of parts, but again, it's kind of a lot to fill. they do the ritual of chud, however you want to pronounce it. There is a little sight gag in the classroom of a turtle. I thought that was pretty good. Again, if for nothing else, watch for Bill Hader's performance and James Ransone. It just was a thing of beauty with their interactions, and I really, really enjoyed the back and forth between them, even during a very sad part. It's kind of heartbreaking, and Bill Hader puts on a performance that it felt like a gut punch of how just hard it hit me in the feels, and I was not expecting it to hit me like that. There are no after credit scenes, just to put it out there. If you read the book, the TV movie, this also leaves out a lot of what happens with them after they leave Derry. Like in the movie and the book, they talk about how Ben and Bev immediately leave, get married, and she's pregnant, which had been a curse for them. They weren't able to have kids. Just little things here and there, just kind of aggravating. And I don't want to take away from the movie. I mean, Muschietti did the best he could with what he was given, and the book, especially the second half, is very, very hard to translate into a way that works. And they made their choice. They picked and choose. I don't agree with some of it. Some of the choices I thought were actually fairly brilliant. Again, it's kind of rough to divorce myself from the source material at times, and that's more of a me problem than the movie's problem. It's actually 100% a me problem. Also, I guess it's showing in before this movie that Birds of Prey teaser. This has nothing to do with it, but it's on my mind. It literally showed nothing and made me excited about not one thing about it, and that is pretty rare to hype a teaser that basically is garbage. There you go. That's my thoughts on Birds of Prey and that ridiculous name. So my final score on this, I had It Chapter 1 pretty high. I think I was 8.5 or a 9 on it. I wasn't doing reviews back then, but I think that's what I'd give it. It was solid. I still can rewatch it and enjoy it. I thought Bill Skarsgård's performance was stronger in it. This one, I don't know, it just seemed not as sinister, even mischievous. They went more for like shock horror, and it didn't hit me in the way that the first one did. I'm going to give this a 7. It's still a good score. I'm positive on it. My one negative is a little too CGI heavy. Some characters don't have the chemistry that I felt they needed to have, and some performances were weaker than others. And it was long. It's too long of a movie. I don't know what the right length would have been or what you could cut. I mean, for all I know, there might be a 3.5-hour cut of it of stuff Muschietti cut. They do show it coming to Earth as an origin in here as well. Again, there's parts. It's so hard to judge this because of what we've seen already, the source material. I think 7 is a fair number for this. I thank you for joining me on this non-spoiler review. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Tell me your thoughts on it. Again, this is pretty fresh in my head. I just got home from the movie. Didn't really write my thoughts down, so I'm kind of just spitballing off the top of my head. Anyway, thank you for watching, and take care of yourselves.